Welcome to Power Lunch Live. I'm Rhett Power, your host. It's good to be back with you after a summer break. We had a few shows over the summer, but we've been relaxing and taking it easy. Not really, but anyway, we've been having a good summer. Hope you have too. It's good to be back with you on Power Lunch Live. Now, the point of the show is to have today's thought leaders, best-selling authors, people who are doing amazing work in the world, who can help us make sense of what we're doing in our business, can help us be better at what we do. Today, I've got Tom Hickman. Tom is the U.S. Director of Sales for Chainyard, which is a blockchain consulting company, a digital transformation company. And Tom's going to help us sort of make sense of blockchain. Tom, we were talking before we came on how really relevant blockchain and digital transformation and AI and all this is really relevant to what we're hearing in the news today. But Tom, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Rhett. It's definitely my honor to be with you today. I appreciate you having me.
Well, I wanted to have you on because you're an expert in this, and I wanted to ask you, break down blockchain for us, make it simple.
Sure.
And why is it relevant? We have a lot of entrepreneurs here, startup founders, and we have a lot of small, medium-sized enterprises that listen into the show.
Sure.
And I want to make what we're hearing in the news relevant to them. I want to make them help them understand what blockchain is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great place to start, Rhett. And thank you again for having me. So, I get asked a lot of questions about, right now we have a nice Excel spreadsheet and, we have everything and we have every metric on a spreadsheet. Why do I need blockchain? And to break it down real simple is the Excel spreadsheet is a centralized ledger, which basically means, Rhett, that I can take that email with that attachment. I can send that Excel spreadsheet to you, and then you can make changes on that, okay? And only you know that you made changes on that. Whereas if I look at the blockchain and I look at it from a 60,000-foot view, it's immutable, it's transparent, it's decentralized. So you'll hear the acronym DLT, Decentralized Ledger Technology. And basically that means that once all your information is on a blockchain, unlike the Excel spreadsheet, it can't be changed. And whenever someone makes a change to that, if they have access to that, then everybody that's on that change sees that and agrees to that. And then that's your single source of truth going forward. So let's just talk about something that's relevant in the news today. You can turn on any station that you'd like, and you'll know that we have thousands of refugees coming across, whether they're landing in Australia, our forts here, our bases here in the United States or Germany. And do you know right now, Rhett, there's over 1.2 billion people who can't identify themselves, where they're from, what their last name is. They can't do that. So it's probably not happening, but imagine if we could take those, as we admit those and vet those refugees, and we could use biometrics on them and say we can do a face recognition or an iris scan or a digital fingerprint. We put that on the blockchain and it can never be changed. And we basically are giving them a digital passport. Okay, this is a real relevant example where we can make sure that these refugees, they know who they are. But just look at the bigger picture right now. We can reunite families. We can let people know who their cousins are by having all that information on the blockchain. So the technology is very revolutionary. So digital identity, in that example, it's relevant because we see that every day. We read about that. It pops up on our computers. But digital identity, in the supply chain for medium, small business companies and enterprise institutions, it's really going to be a game changer, and it's really revolutionary in the marketplace.
How does that? Okay, yeah, go straight into that then, because
Sure.
I think the perception is I think you started out great with the spreadsheet,
right.
And when I was in the toy business and we had our toy company, and my partner, I have to give him all the credit, but he was the spreadsheet guy, and
Right.
he helped. He managed that process, the inventory, the the shipping and the receiving and that whole, the accounts payable and receivable and all that. All
Sure.
that was done by spreadsheets. And
Right.
but how is that going to change?
Well, it's going to change because once we put that on a cryptographic hash,
Okay.
okay, and that's all done through, obviously you have to have the right data sets to import the right information at the right time on the computer. Okay, once that is all entered into the blockchain by way of a cryptographic hash, it cannot be changed. And then it's a mathematical equation, Rhett. Those algorithms are built in, you know, through a variety of like smart contracts and public and private access. We give authority to those folks that can make and see that information on that blockchain, and the information is instantaneous. So, I think of a small startup company. So let's say that,
Yes, give us a use case here. Yeah,
yeah,
just
yeah.
give us a yeah.
Let's take, what's really big right now, and I guess this hits home for me is seltzer and all the new seltzer waters and different things like
Right,
that, and
right,
energy drinks, right?
right.
So if you want to develop a new energy drink, right now you're going to the restaurant and you're pulling up a QR code that's pasted there in front of you, and using your phone, you're pulling up that QR code and you get the drinks, you get the entrees, you get the entire menu there for you. Okay.
Right.
You're not touching anything. What has that restaurant done? They've automated the manual process. Okay. Manually, you were given a menu. Manually, someone had to print that menu. Okay. And someone had to buy the paper to print that menu.
And then the laminated, and then
You better
right.
believe it. So, Rhett, we have saved enormous amounts of money by that QR code that's right there in front of you at the table. Okay. Now take a company who's now into seltzer water. They create this new seltzer water, and all the ingredients start at the manufacturing facility. Okay, so the ingredients start there. Where do they get those ingredients? Those ingredients, in the life sciences world, they call it excipients, but those ingredients come from somewhere. Okay.
Right.
And then you have to bring in your plastics or your manufacturing to put all those ingredients together. And then, depending on how small or how big you are, you have to transfer those to a warehouse. And then from a warehouse, now you're getting to the shelf at your local Harris Teeter or Publix.
Right.
Okay. So what small, medium-sized companies are doing now, and to a larger extent, even your larger companies, I can give you a use case there. What happens now when you get that seltzer water drink from your local Publix and it has a QR code? Okay. Now you can scan that QR code, and now you can know exactly from start to finish where that started and how did it land on my shelf.
Hmm.
Okay. And what happens, companies are starting to build new revenue models out of this, because what's happening, Red, is now you're creating revenue, but you're also improving your brand loyalty. And that is huge. Okay. So in a bigger example, we can look at a Louis Vuitton bag. Okay. Those are made in France.
Right.
Okay. And what's happening now, Rhett, is, people might say to me, they say, well, Tom, I don't need blockchain because I'm putting the RFID device, at my manufacturing facility, and that's all I need. Okay, I don't need to be on the blockchain because by the time it gets to my Louis Vuitton store at my local mall, it's already there and people will know that, and it's embedded in plastic. And I tell them that's great. A Louis Vuitton bag on average is about $500. Okay. It probably costs you at least $2 to put that RFID device into that bag, embedded into that plastic. And that's excellent. However, $2, that really impacts your profit,
Absolutely.
especially when you're selling millions and millions of bags all throughout the world.
Right.
Okay. So look at blockchain of an overall ROI on your business. If that entire, and number two, Rhett, bad characters can enter the business at any time along that supply chain.
Right.
Okay. There's bad characters and they can enter fraud. They can duplicate that RFI device at any time if it's not on the blockchain. Okay.
Mm.
But if we implant that device and we put that on the blockchain, now it's transparent. Now we can follow that from the manufacturing to the warehouse, from the crate that's on the ship to get it from Paris to the coast of LA and throughout America. Now
Right.
we can follow that all the way through. Okay. And people, I think there's a market out there, if you travel abroad, you can buy a fake bag. And I think there's a market out there, Rhett, that people just want to be seen with a fake bag and they don't care. And there's probably a
Right.
market for that, and
Sure.
that's fine. But there are people that really truly believe in the loyalty of the product and they want to carry the real thing. And that's where, by Louis Vuitton or Gucci bag, or pick your high-end product, they're going to implement blockchain, and then they're going to build that customer loyalty. So then someone can show up and say, no, this is the real thing. And I know exactly where it was made. I know when it was transported. We're doing timestamps on every step along the way. And by the time it got here, I know exactly who touched it. And that transparency, that truth, that single source of truth, you can't put a price on that. The brand loyalty that you build is amazing. So going back to that small startup company, think of the brand loyalty that they're building with that new can of seltzer that they're selling.
So to me, it seems like then it's really some of this is consumer. Some of this is market driven, but a lot of this is going to be ultimately consumer driven, right? There's going to be an expectation that your product, that there's that level of information about your product, that there's that much security and confidence that your product is what it says it is.
Yeah, and not only that is that when I start with when I discuss with small startup companies and they want to enter blockchain, which by the way, there's so much misinformation out there. It's not that expensive to get into as people might think. Okay.
Okay.
But think about those folks who, and I was part owner, part investor of a company too, and I had all the dreams of starting this business and selling it and doing what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. These folks today, if they have a company like that, think how much more value their business is worth if they would implement blockchain to another venture capital group who wants to invest, or they're raising their next round of Series B or Series C funds. And now that they have blockchain implemented into their solution, they're worth that much more value.
Is it so is there some value in, say, your data? I mean, let's go with a company, medical records or anything like that, right? That where your business depends on, to an extent, on security of data.
That's right.
Consumer data, patient data, whatever it is, right?
That's right.
Your mailing list, people, we have businesses collect data on people if they're doing it right. Is there a way to secure that data on the blockchain?
There is, and that's a great question and a lead in to the healthcare space, because right now blockchain in healthcare and in life sciences, I think, is huge. You can really go after this marketplace in so many different areas. But once that information for that person, what we want to do is, I think where the industry is going is we want that patient to be in control of their own data. Okay. That's me. That's what I do. We don't want it to be stolen. Okay. It's going to be very secure on that blockchain. Whenever it's a private blockchain, Rhett, when it's a private blockchain, the individual is in control of who can see and who they share that data with. And that's very important. So, if you think about that, I go into a local hospital here in the Raleigh-Durham area. My information is on a blockchain. I am now in control as who I want to send that to, as far as the physician or the referring physician for surgery. But not only that, I can control what part of the information I want to send them to.
So I want to break that down a little bit too, because one of the things that I have a challenge with is, I live I've lived all over the world, and one of my concerns is, I have a big medical file, right? And um, I literally have to carry it with me when I move to a different place, and
Right.
um, I really want to be able to say, and I mean, have this on, not on a disk or a thumb drive, but somehow or another. Let's say I'm traveling and I have to go to a hospital in San Diego.
That's right.
I want them to have my medical records,
That's right. Yeah.
right? I mean, I might not be able to say anything, but I want them to have. Does that make sense? I want to be able to,
Yeah.
like you said, have it go with me wherever I go.
Yeah. And that can all be condensed, through your digital passport on your phone. And actually, what Chainyard did is we did a proof of concept rep where we did a digital health passport to do just that. And we did that at the start of pandemic because we knew how important it was to have all of that information as you travel to one place to the next. And that has really, really gained in popularity. It's somewhat controversial, as you know,
Sure.
but the solution is out there. So now you can have that on your phone. But there's big companies out there, for example, that Accenture, is doing some great things from a digital record standpoint. That their relationships across the country, if you live in New York City and are traveling San Diego, they have already built the APIs where you can take your phone and transfer everything over to that doctor. And again, you're in control, Rhett. They're only seeing what you want them to see.
Sure.
Okay. So that is being done right now through the blockchain. And their business is growing exponentially. I mean, they did 500 million this past year. They'll probably eclipse $1 billion in just their innovation arm of blockchain. So it is gaining popularity, and the digital health space is very, very popular. What the pandemic taught us, Rhett, is that everything is going to be virtual. And if you think about new drug developments, for example, and clinical trials, there was a time not so long ago where you could gather 250 people and do a double blind study on a new drug and determine what the results are. That's just not happening anymore. People are not traveling. Now you can use blockchain to send that information to the patient. We know when they receive the information. We know when they've opened the container. We know whenever they've taken the drug, and the results, when they're known, they enter them back into the blockchain. So we're getting that information now from a virtual standpoint. And there's been terrific projects out there. For example, the Melody Project, and that is precision drug delivery. And it's looking at all the different companies, and they're all on the blockchain, and they would be considered competitors, Rhett. Okay, but since they're in control of their own data, they're only sharing what they want to share for the greater group, without sharing that private information that would give them the competitive edge. Okay. And that's the power of it. There's so much power in working together as a team, and people are starting to realize that. And blockchain is definitely a we technology. If you think you're going to go it alone, you might have to rethink your direction, because it's definitely a technology where we're all working together for the common good.
Okay. What talk about this in the context of security. Again, sort of bringing it back down to the small and medium enterprise. Are people going to be left behind if they don't start using this to help secure their data and to help sort of manage things going forward?
I really think so. I mean, if you just look right now, there's now commercials about ransomware attacks on TV or the radio. And Rhett, you're hearing about this every day, but you're only hearing about the big companies that pay the huge ransom because they can't afford to be down for one day. And then you can get into the different types of blockchain networks as to which network to use. But the ones you don't hear about are the ones that have to pay 2 or 3 million. And I think the last bit of information I read, the last data was that the average ransomware fee or, whatever to get yourself out of that situation is $7 million. Okay. That's what companies are paying. So there's all kinds of information, and you see a lot of types of security, but whenever that information that they have is on a secured blockchain network, whether that's private or public, it can't be changed. It's immutable. It's transparent and everybody can see it. And then if there's a bad character and they go in and try to change one of the blocks, Rhett, guess what? Everybody knows about it. And they can filter that out real quick.
So are the companies that are getting attacked, are they the ones that are not using, I guess
probably
not securing their data?
Not securing their data enough. And I'm not a security expert.
Okay.
I just know exactly how the blockchain works. And you think about the Genesis block. And if I'm all the way down the chain, and if I want to change a block all the way down, I have to literally change each subsequent block in that chain to affect the entire system, which is impossible to do.
Okay. So most likely the people that are getting attacked and losing and having to pay these ransoms are, I guess, probably not securing their data with the blockchain.
That's correct. And there's bad characters everywhere. There's unfortunately smart bad characters everywhere. And there's a whole market for that. And it's you definitely have to secure your data. Where blockchain, and then you mentioned, AI into the picture. The beauty of blockchain, and then when you start adding other services like AI, if your data sets are very good. So, the old adage is you're only as good as the information you put in. Okay?
Right.
So if your data sets that you're looking at, Rhett, and if they're very, very good data sets, and then you're able to use an AI algorithm on that data, think of the possibilities. Think of what you can reimagine. I mean, you can pull data out of silos, information that you haven't touched in maybe 7 years. Okay. And if you're able to pull that data out and then use AI and machine learning and teach that computer what to look for, okay, the information that you can accumulate and the decisions that you can make are powerful.
Yeah, no doubt. What is so how do companies think about this? I mean, I know that's a broad question, but where do you go to learn how this is really relevant to you as a company? How do you talked about it being affordable? What does that mean?
Sure.
What is, in practical terms, what does that mean? I know those are some broad questions, but I
right.
Because I know people are thinking, well, I still don't understand, like,
right,
how I use this and how do I get started?
Yeah, exactly. So, understand I'm not a software engineer. What I like to think about is I like to just speak business to it and understand it. And I love the technology and I love to immerse myself into it. And that's why I've really gravitated to it. I'm a big fan of it. I like to stay curious. But, where I would go, there's great people, 101 blockchains. Okay, you can go on the web and just tap in 101 blockchains. It's a great website to learn all about blockchain, NFTs, central bank digital currencies, and what all that means. And, I always tell my kids when they're studying something new and it's challenging, you probably know the information. They're just using different terms to describe it. And that's the same way with some of these larger acronyms that aren't familiar to you. You know it. Logically, you know the information, but the nomenclature is just a little bit different. So it's not making sense just yet. So I go to 101 blockchains. I follow a couple of people on LinkedIn that are excellent. And they all happen to be working with IBM because IBM was really at the forefront of this in 2015. Specifically, I like Ryan Rugg, I like Don Tapscott, and I like Jerry Como. And then, from my standpoint, I'm fortunate that I work with two really good executive leaders who understand the business, and that's Isaac Kunkel and Sai Nyamarte from Chainyard. They understand the business very well. And we have a great CTO as well that can really break this down and give real world examples. So I'm really comfortable. I really feel, Rhett, that I could look at any industry right now, and we're working with all of them. And I could make a business case for any industry right now why blockchain would work. You know, there's a great book. I'll just share this book with you real quick. We did an analyst call with Gartner, okay,
Okay.
and this is a book called The Real Business of Blockchain by David Furlonger.
Love it.
Yeah, we were on a call with David from an analyst standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
That we just walked through, our business approach, but he wrote that book. And even the first chapter is worth the price of the book. It is so good.
So tell us about it. Break it down. Give it, entice us here with it.
Yeah, well, it really talks about everything, from a very basic perspective. Another book I like, it's called The Blockchain Basics, 25 Steps from a Non-Technical Standpoint. And Rhett, it really talks about, the really basics of blockchain from step 1 through step 25. And again, we're talking about smart contracts, and people hear about smart contracts and they're asking, what are smart contracts? How can they be smart? I don't understand it. A contract is a piece of paper that it's a give and take. Well, right now we're automating that. So when we first talk about blockchain, going back to really what it is, a database versus a DLP, Rhett, we're talking about, new business models. We're talking about any manual processes that are taking place right now and automating those. So if you're buying a house right now, you know that the closing lasts about 35 minutes because you just keep signing your life away and checking a box and putting your initials in there, but guess what? Someone's getting paid for that. Okay. That can all be done on a blockchain securely. Okay. At no cost and almost instantaneously. And both, the deed company, the real estate company, and you have all that information.
Right.
Okay. And think about, and that's through a smart contract. Now think about, you've traveled all over the world. And, maybe you want to send money back to your family. Well, guess what? To do that, there's a settlement fee on your end.
Right.
And then that $10 that you sent is going to cost your family about $14.50 about $4.50 on their end.
Right.
Okay. So Accenture just wrote a wonderful paper on central bank digital currencies. Again, Rhett, another acronym that sounds intimidating, but it's really not. Okay. Yeah. It's just the ability to send money cross-border payments without any charge. And it's really, really good stuff. And more governments across the world are accepting that.
Well, and it's frankly, I mean, glad you brought that up because that's having lived in Africa and Central and South America, one of the barriers to doing business, when I was in business, when I was doing that, again, going back to the toy company, when I was in the toy company, we tried to do business in Brazil.
Right.
And we tried to do business in parts of Asia and Africa. The biggest challenge was money and confidence and security that money could switch hands safely. And
that's right.
Part of that was the banking systems there didn't allow for that kind of, it was a challenge. And the fees, and you're right, the fees were extraordinary. So that's a huge problem that might solve. And also the people sending money, the diaspora in the United States and all around the world that sends money back to their local communities is a big thing. So
it is. And if you just, even if you get gas at your local gas station, you put in your card and, they deduct $25 from your account. But even the gas station, they're not getting paid for 3 days because there's a settlement charge there. So, if it could be all done instantaneously, and you'll see people would rather pay cash, if you come to line, hey, if you're not using your card, if you're paying cash, come over here. The retailers would love for you to just pay cash.
Absolutely.
So that's why blockchain, even in its most simplest sense, will make sense for so many industries across the country. in
No,
the development.
it'll take out that credit card fee too, right? That
That's right.
3% or whatever it is that people end up paying now.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Wow, that's big. That's a big. I mean, that has impact at your corner bakery. It has impact in your local boutique. It has. I mean, that's.
So if you think, and I'll give you another real world example, and we'll enter the world of tokens. Okay, and this Red is really where you can start to really develop brand loyalty. So, and the cannabis industry right now is huge, or you could use the coffee bean example. Okay, but if you want to implement blockchain in the supply chain, okay, you take the seed from the plantation all the way over to the warehouse and then all the way to distribute to that small shop in your downtown for CBD oil. Okay. Not only are you creating brand loyalty, but then the company may mine, say, 2 million tokens. And then by purchasing something, they in turn receive a token for future purposes. And that really builds the brand loyalty for the customer base. But what it also does is you can use that in coffee, you could use that in cannabis. But right now, since cannabis is an all cash business, now you're creating an audit trail. Now you're not going to the bank with large sums of cash. Now you have all that on the distributed ledger, a DLT, a ledger, and everybody is seeing that information. Okay, and they know exactly when it was paid, and it was paid to you for this much, and it's time stamped, and everybody sees that information. So the audit trail in the cannabis industry is huge. The brand loyalty by developing tokens is huge as well. And then you'll hear all kinds of things about carbon credits for energy and gas and so forth. In a sense, that's the same thing. You're just being rewarded for using less and less energy, or yet less of that utility.
That, I mean, we're in I think we're in this really exciting period, right? Where business is not going to be the same, and the way we did it in the past is not going to be the same. I mean, the basics of it, yes, but I mean, it's just so many new ways to really.
It really is, and I tell companies all the time, you've got to embrace it. You've got to embrace it. It starts with a proof of concept. Let's look at the discovery stage. Let's look and find out what you're doing now. Okay, and let's ask some of those questions. Where are all the manual processes in the chain? Okay, where are you making handoffs? Tell me about all your transactions that you're doing. How can we build an increased revenue based on those transactions and turn that into a revenue model? Once we have that, let's try to implement that or do some sort of migration and build a proof of concept. Again, this doesn't have to be expensive. This could be a 6-week engagement. We work in an agile development, so it could be 3 2-week sprints, and we prove ourselves every 2 weeks. Okay, and what our goal is to develop an MVP that's tried and true, that if we would want to release this to the public, it would work. And once we get buy-in, then we can go into the continuous integration. Now we can apply that to that one business unit. And once that company sees that one business unit has implemented that solution and that service, they're like, wait, this really does work. We really can make money here. We really can be much more resilient. We can be much more efficient by using this technology. Let's go ahead and scale that to the other business units.
I mean, what this says to me is, I mean, and if you look at I just wrote an article today for CEO World, and about innovation and what makes companies innovative and like Amazon and Apple. And I mean, if you look at Amazon, to me, it was about, they made this process so simple. In 2 clicks, I can have something on its way to my door. Right.
That's right.
And they have just this uber focus on making that process so simple. There's so much going on in the back end there that I don't even have to think about. But is that really what you think this does? Is it really helps automate and streamline that buying process to make it so simple.
Yeah.
And
So,
make it that easy and that secure.
exactly. So efficient, security, transparent where everybody can see it, and simplicity. And that's what blockchain will do. And that's what companies really have to embrace this and not be intimidated by the technology, but embrace this and just have the curiosity to learn and just know that I need to learn this. I want to learn this. I talk to different companies that they take courses on their own. And you can pay a lot of money for an MIT course, a Flatiron course, and they're all excellent courses. Okay. But the key is to embrace the technology because it's not going away. The projected growth is through the roof. The top 50 Fortune 500 companies are all using blockchain. And we might not know it, but they're using it. Third-party logistic companies are using it. Small mom and pop shops are using it, and you don't even realize it. But they're getting that information on there, but they're protecting themselves. And again, they're having that distributed ledger where everybody can see that and they're making better decisions. To your point, we also sell the services of UI and UX, both on the front end and the back end. So the back end is everything you don't see. But on the front end, we're giving that customer experience on that phone or on that iPad. We're making that so easy for them that they not only can they do one or two from their keyboard, but they can look at their phone and go, oh, I know exactly where that's at any time throughout the supply chain. And, just the sense of security that gives you and that, and then if anyone tries to break into that chain, you also know it makes you sleep better at night, Rhett.
Well, it's what customers are going to demand. And I think anybody that doesn't understand that you've got to do this now. You've got to think about how, you got to think of how easy your system is for the customer to use. And if it's not, if it's complicated, they have to spend a lot of time trying to figure it out, they're going to go somewhere else.
That's right. And you need to have the folks that a combination of your technology and also your business development folks. So, it really helps whenever you have both on the call together. And hopefully, we can do this in person as well, when we can really evaluate the solution and look at it from a technical standpoint and what services we're going to use on the front end, but then from a business standpoint and making them think, what if you could do it this way and this much faster? And we're not, the thinking is that we're going to have to, eliminate all these resources. But Rhett, it's just the opposite. Let's use those resources to be efficient in other ways.
Yeah.
And let's reimagine and let's think about another new business model where we could use the technology and make that a revenue stream. Before you think about software as a service, that was big. And everybody thought, with the Apple and the Spotify model, to subscribe to something, the access versus the ownership model. Now you can do cloud as a service. Now you can do desktop support as a service. Blockchain as a service. Well, what's going to happen down the road is we're not even going to think about that subscription model anymore. It's going to be, everything's going to be on the blockchain, and we're going to know. We're going to know that it's secure, it's simple, and it's transparent, and everybody can see it. Yeah.
Well, Tom, this has been interesting. I'm going to have to bring you back on at some point to talk about all the other things we didn't get to today, but we are out of time. And thanks for joining us today.
I do appreciate it, Rhett. It's been my honor, and best of luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for being with us today on Power Lunch Live. We will be back next week, I think, with 3 shows on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So please join us then. Anyway, have a great day and make it productive, and we'll see you next week.